Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and today we're going to take our next review for Kabaya month to an extreme. You voted for the big guy, we're going to look at him. This week it's King Poseidon, aka Piranacon. Now, these guys were all sold together during the same year, so they were relatively easily to acquire when they were first put out. I bought these during the final BotCon, and that was about 2 years ago, so they shouldn't be too difficult to find on the open market still. Although I would recommend, if you are out to get the complete combiner, you try to see if you can find some way to acquire all 6 at once. Of course, there's some major differences between them and their original toys, and we're going to cover all of that. The chief thing among them is the fact that they all don't have the gun mode like their larger counterparts do, so that's one thing you're going to miss out on. And number 2, they don't have the interchangeability that the original ones also had. They are intended specifically to go in a specific spot. Now, while you probably can alter it to some degree, we're going to stick with that. Mainly because I don't want to take the chance of breaking these guys and then having to track down a replacement. So, we're going to go through each one in order, and we're going to try to go through these as relatively quick as possible so I don't bore y'all to tears out there. So, let's get started, shall we? Alright, first guy up we'll look at is Snaptrap. He's number 1 in the series. The one thing you may notice immediately is that he does not have the large weapons that he's supposed to. Well, his weapons come with overbite, so we'll just borrow them from him for a moment. Add them on there so you can see how he looks fully armed. And there we go, we got Snaptrap fully loaded with his weapons. Of course, unlike what's shown in the instructions, this toy clearly shows that you can use the turtle shell as a shield. So it's kind of a nice addition. The only downside I really have with mine is the stickers really don't want to stay down on him. I'm going to have to use some sticker coat or something to make sure they quit popping up on me here. At any rate, it's a pretty reasonable facsimile to his original counterpart. Just he doesn't really have any black painted on his head or on the guns. So that's a little disappointment, but it's mild in comparison. As far as articulation goes, he can bend at the elbow to aim his gun. He can also rotate his arm. Just about all the way. Let's take the gun out. Take the gun off of him. Can he rotate all the way? Nope, not quite. The extra pieces here on the backside get in the way. And of course, as he's an assembled toy, the leg fell off. And he can bend his legs about so far apart from each other. Let's put the gun back in. Now, how does he look compared to the original? Shrimpy. But all in all, as you can see, he's not too bad of a representation of the original. I mean, they both have kibble sticking out on their backsides, but on this one it's a little more forgivable due to the fact that he partially gets disassembled and reassembled to transform him. Whereas on the big toy, he's got to be folded up into the different positions in order to work. So, that's just how it works for him, folks. Be nice if it was a different setup, I know, but we can't always get what we want with these toys. Moment here, we're going to transform Snaptrap. I'm working on the big one here off camera. Mainly because I haven't reviewed Snaptrap yet. I want him ready. Then we'll transform the small one there for you, right in front of you, so you can see just how that works on the little guy. There we go. Now the big one is more or less ready to go. Let's get the small one and transform him. Okay, of course, for starters, he has to lose the weapons, since they're not his to use anyway. And of course, we take the shield off here. Of course, we also have to remove his lower legs. And on his backside, we have to remove the small turtle legs. Yep, like I said, these darn cheap stickers they put on these guys. Should have applied some more pressure. But at any rate, hold on a second, phone's ringing. Sorry about that, folks, kind of an important call. Mom says hi, by the way, to all of you watching. Okay, to transform him now that we've got all the pieces removed, of course, fold the head back, bring the chest up, bring the arms out straight and bend them at the elbow. And now, we take his legs and we will attach the robot legs in here onto the robot's chest. Oops, did it backwards. Hold on a second. Would help if I had the instructions right side up. Okay, you'll take the robot leg. You want the post on the side of the leg sticking outward, because that's where you're going to attach a turtle shell leg, like so. You attach the turtle leg like that to it. And then you will connect it to these bottom turquoise holes here, so that way the feet go into this hole right here on the sides. Like that. I'll get the other one up here, in front of the camera, not off to the side. Doo-doo-doo-doo. And connect it into this hole here. Like so. Get the shell. Fold things downward like so. And then attach it to the two holes up close to the shell. And there we have it. He's in turtle mode. Now, of course, as well, does have a spot where he can mount the cannon like the larger toy can. But of course, also on the underside, you can store other pieces, like the head, which is included with the second guy, Overbite. Can be attached here on the back of the shell, just like that. And the sword can also be connected into this hole down here, and he's holding all the extra parts. Of course, let's bring out the Big Daddy and see how he compares to his larger counterpart. And again, aside from the color differences, he's about on par. It's not a perfect representation, but it does get the job done. About the biggest difference that many of us might gripe about is the fact that we don't have the lever on the small toy to simulate firing of the cannons, but hey, that's what imagination is for, folks. And of course, unfortunately, the big guy here can't store the sword or the head underneath. So that's a minor loss in all actuality here. But of course, let's quickly shift things a little bit. To put him back in robot mode. So that way we can kind of get him ready for Piranacon. Or King Poseidon. We should probably call him that more, because that's what the toy was sold as. Okay, now that we got him back as the robot, to get him ready to be King Poseidon, we remove the legs like so. We rotate the arms all the way back like that. Just exactly like that. Next, we throw one of the legs on the floor. We'll take the other leg, and keep the posts inward, and we attach them over here to the side. Like so. That way they're spread out. Of course, we take the turtle shell, fold these up to the side, and plug it into his chest. And then now he's ready to be formed into King Poseidon. Not including the head, because we haven't shown off where the head comes from yet, so we'll quickly take a look at his instructions. As you can see, this is his box. He's primarily featured on the front. And over here on the sides, you got number 2 is Overbite, number 3 is Sea Wing, number 4 is Nautilator, number 5 is Scalor, and number 6 is Tentakill. And down here would be his brief bio, and back here on this page, it shows off the gimmick. They can all be formed into the one figure. And it does show there is some, it does show here, I stand corrected, it does show there is some ability to mix them up just a little bit. So this would be more in keeping with the complete version. So that's nice. That is nice that it does show that can be done. Now, of course, inside, quick detail of how to assemble him into the robot. And then down here is how to transform him into a turtle. And of course, if you have box 2, you can add the accessories to him. And then the brief setup of how to get him ready. And then this is to show off how they form him into King Poseidon. And there we go. That's round 1 finished. Alright, next guy up is number 2, Overbite. Of course, Overbite here looks pretty intimidating due to the fact that he included the large gun and sword that would normally be with Snaptrap. Plus, he also has his own gun mounted on top of it, so it makes him look pretty wicked looking. Of course, as an added bonus, he also includes the head for King Poseidon, or Piranacon. But he also can still be made into the gun, as was typically depicted in the original instructions. We'll bring him out. We'll bring out here his normal counterpart. You can immediately see the size difference between the two toys. Of course, it's impossible for this version to hold the gun and sword of Snaptrap due to the fact that the posts on these weapons here are too big for his hands. So, that's not even doable. But you'll also notice Overbite's original toy has plenty of purple on him, and that's predominantly been replaced, especially in the chest, by blue. Chest and the gun are both blue. Everything else is whatever color the plastic happened to be. It looks like more that chartreuse color. So, that's quite a difference when you think about it. Quickly give Overbite a transformation here off camera so that he's ready to go and show off. Alright, now that he's ready, and as we said, the extra weapons, the larger weapons and the head could be held by Snaptrap. So we'll just set the head aside, get the sword aside, remove the guns, but we'll separate the small one because we're going to need it in a moment. Alright, so how do we go about transforming him into his alternate mode? Well, we remove his arms. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Then we will fold up his tail over his head. They won't perfectly lock, so don't force it. And we fold down the legs to form the main body. They don't wiggle in any further, so do not push it in like it should be. And then, of course, you will attach the legs here onto the chartreuse points. And there you have the monster shark mode. Plus, of course, he does have a hole down here on the underside like the original toy did to mount the gun. I don't know, do you think after this he could get a job at Universal? Posing for pictures? Yeah, let's see. How does he look compared alongside to the original? The original is a bit more intimidating, folks. That much is obvious due to the size, and the purple color works better on here than the chartreuse. It doesn't work for me, folks. I'm sorry to say it, but I do have to be honest with you, and I don't think it works. It comes close, but it really just, it doesn't go well with him, so that and the fact the gun being recessed in here a bit, it's okay, but I think I like it better on this one where it's out a little further. It at least clears his hands, so you know he's not quite as likely to shoot himself in the hand. But he still could, but I think it looks better sticking out a little bit like that. Alright, let's get him out of the way and quickly put him back as the robot. Of course, reattach his arms. Alright, now that we got him like this, let's show you how we make him into the gun mode. The first thing we got to do is we bring his arms up, like so. And fold his head back just enough to get the post sticking out. And then we fold the tail up. Then we're going to take his claws here and we're going to point them straight down like so. Then we get his little gun and we insert it here at the bottom. And he is now ready for the combined form. And of course, before we get to that, we'll show you his box. You can see him prominently here on the front. It showcases him with the sword and the larger gun and the head. And the only difference on this side is just he's been replaced by Snaptrap. It's kind of obvious. Over here would be his bio. And same junk here on the back. Backside here shows you how to build him into the robot mode. Of course, at the end they show you how to put the stickers on the giant head. And how to turn him into the shark. And then how to make him into the gun. And of course they got the Piranacon / King Poseidon instructions all over here on this side. So, Overbite's ready to go. Next up, of course, is Sea-Wing. Sea-Wing, in this case, will form the left arm. As you'll notice, he's got the fist mounted as an extra gun, or some sort of close-up melee weapon, and he's storing the extra gun on his wing. That's kind of a cute way to do it. Like many of the others, the articulation is only in the arms, and it's limited by how well the wings are, because unlike on the large toy, the wings don't fold back. You see here with the original, he went with a lighter shade of gray on his body. That's not too bad. It isn't too bad. I mean, the only major difference is this one has a little more articulation. He can at least not quite. His arms still bump into the wings no matter what, so that's not really going to be anything that's going to be fixed easy. But I'll give them some credit. At least they tried. And we'll quickly get him into his alternate mode here off camera. Sea-Wing always is a pain to transform, just due to the tightness of him. There we go. With guns on his wings. Now, to transform this little dude, first need to remove his guns, and of course the fist. The only other thing we remove is we remove his legs. Basically kind of adjust his arms a little bit, stand him up, and fold his tail over his head. And then now, we'll turn his legs over so that the face points forward, and then just attach the posts inside into the holes on what was his legs. This part's going to be a little tricky due to the limited amount of room we are given to work with in getting the legs attached. There's one. Get your leg out of the way. So one downside with one like this is that the pieces are a little small. We'll use Snaptrap's gun here to kind of push it in somewhat so it's held together. They do connect as well down there, so that does help. Then, of course, we can mount his guns back on the wings. And there we have the Monster Stingray mode. Looks kind of silly, but then again, so does his original form. These legs down all the way here. And the lack of the chartreuse color on the top of this version here is a bit of a detraction, but as it wouldn't be as noticeable underwater that well, it probably works out better for him in the long run, really. I also like the different detail on the stickers around the eyes. I mean, yeah, it is more robotic in nature, but it does work for him. Now, of course, the only reason this one doesn't have it is this one doesn't have the stickers on him. This is one that's been loaned. This one's on loan, so it's an unfair comparison, but I do like it. Especially on this one. It is a nice carryover. It is a rather nice carryover. I think this one works. The only real downside is, again, dealing with having to connect that piece. I can understand it's probably a bit of a pain to make it work in this scale. But you kind of make do with what you can. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. This is where you also wiggle to get this guy apart. And then reassemble him. Oops, wrong way. Wrong way. Get him reassembled like he's supposed to be, like that. Now, to get him ready, fold his arms all the way down. They won't go any further than that. Fold his head down so that it brings the post out, and then swing his tail up to kind of block it in place. And then down here, we kind of connect the post and hole on his legs together to make them one solid unit. And then you got a couple of holes here on the bottom. We just plug the fist into one of them. And there we have it. He's ready to become the left arm. Just lay him down here for a second and take a look at his instructions. I like the artwork for him on here. I mean, this looks wicked, folks. This just makes him look ferocious. Ferocious and nasty. So I like that. That works. That works for me. That's got me sold. All the rest of this is more or less the same stuff you've seen on the other ones. Around here to the back. Quick look at the assembly instructions. Transformation instructions. Oh yeah, when he was as the manta ray, he could mount the fist on top. since there was a plug that could mount onto the top of the wings here, so he could have had that mounted like so. But that's not really that impressive. But at any rate, there he is, and he's ready to go. Next up, of course, is Nautilator. Nautilator, of course, in most of the world releases, is the rarest to find due to the fact that he was not included in the gift set. Of course, I had a little bit of trouble with mine, as this hinged part here always comes off very, very easily, so I'd blame that as a design flaw. And of course, he's got just the one gun. You can use the claw here on the fist as a bonus weapon. That is, if he's smart enough to realize he can do that. Of course, let's stand him next to the original toy there, and again, it's a pretty nice comparison between the two. I love how the fact that on the smaller one here, the legs are filled in a bit and they don't have the open gap like the original one does. So that's a nice improvement. That is a nice improvement, considering. Of course, before we transform him, we'll show you. His articulation only goes, raise his gun up, straight up, or he can go straight down. That's about it. Of course, on his legs, since his legs aren't hinged like the original one, he can spread apart like so, almost do full splits. Now, to transform him into his alternate mode, we first start by removing all of his accessories. So one nice thing about him, the claws don't come off, so you don't have to worry about losing those. We also need, like many of them, we have to remove his legs. And fold his arms down flat and fold this other section up and clamp it to his head. And of course his legs, we rotate them around so they connect to this smaller post deep inside. We have to raise the arm up to allow you a little more room to work. I don't necessarily show you that on the instructions, but that it does make it a little easier to work with getting the leg on. Of course, you can keep an arm up in his lobster mode so that you can mount the fist like so. And then, of course, under his nose here, you mount the gun. And that makes him look very, very vicious. He's not going to be on the menu at Red Lobster anytime soon. But of course, how does he compare to the other one? Well, on the original, I liked the fact more that he had the claws in the different color. They stood out a little bit more. On this one, with them being the same color, they just kind of come off flat. Of course, another bad trait that's carried over on both of them is the arms are exposed. Although putting the fist on this one kind of helps cover it up a little, you know? It at least gives them something to do instead of just hanging out there like they always are. So that's a slight improvement. And of course, this version doesn't have the gun. This isn't the Nautilator I reviewed. This is a different one. But the gun would attach in here on this post. So it'd be a little more recessed in. That would be better than this. Because, I mean, this is sticking out way, 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 way too far for my tastes. But Anyway, let's put him back as the robot real quick. His arm up so I can get that out and reattach the legs. Knock the instructions out of my lap. That's always good. Okay, now that he's back in robot mode, to get him ready, first thing we do is we're going to press his legs together so they're all one solid piece. Get his arms flat and solid. Bend his head back to bring out this post. Then fold that up. And then we attach the robot fist. And there you go. We've got the right arm for King Poseidon. Ready to go. Now all we got to do is get him some legs. Of course, before we forget, again, better show off this box art to you. And this isn't bad. It's not perfect. Looks kind of stupid, but it's better than some of the work that we've seen concerning Nautilator. Flip around here to the other side. Build him as a robot. Transform him into a lobster. And then turn the robot into an arm. Okay, now we're ready to move on to the next guy. Alright, next up we've got Scalor. And immediately, I love what they did to come up with for use for the footstands. He gets a shield, something that none of the original toys could duplicate. I like that. That's very inventive. Good inventive use for the spare part, for all the extra parts. That's something that most of the G1 toys could have used. So it's like immediately, I love that. That is ingenious. I mean, it establishes him predominantly as a foot, but as a leg and a foot, but I like it. Articulation-wise, he's got it predominantly in the arm. He can rotate the arm all the way. The legs do separate as is normal, but he can do a full splits. Not as easily with all those extra pieces, but let's reattach them here. The one disadvantage is that, while it does require him to be taken apart, he does come apart very easily. Probably a little too easily here. I think these guys are doing it on purpose to me here, folks. Of course, while that's all nice and well, how does he compare to the original? The original beats him on articulation a little bit because he could bend his arms at the elbow as well. That's something that the little guy can't do. But of course, you can also notice, it's probably not as easy to tell on camera, the original uses a lot of chartreuse and a bit of pink, whereas this one is blue and a darker shade of pink as well. So color scheme wise, it's a little hard to tell, but I think I like the blue on the smaller version over the chartreuse on the original. But that's just me, folks. That's just one man's opinion, does not necessarily reflect that of the management. They're not talking. Alright, after we quickly get him changed here on the other side of the camera. And keep dropping everything as per usual. Wouldn't be a day on my channel if we didn't drop something around here. Chink. Alright, now we're ready. And of course, I'm going to remove his shield and the guns. And of course, obviously, his feet. Alright, to get the body ready, all we do predominantly is fold the tail up over the head. And then now we'll turn the legs around so they become the monster face. And just plug them in into the sides here. And of course, we connect his guns together and they can be mounted on the pegs on the back. Of course, it's easier if they're not connected, just due to the fact that we can't move the fin on this mode. And then he becomes a coelacanth. Thankfully his arms do move. One gun's not going to fit very well. But how does he compare to the original? Well, again, the original has a better color scheme. I mean, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of pink, but it does make the feet stand out a little bit more. That's kind of a debate, but I think it looks better on the face than this solid dark pink that he has right now. I mean, I know they got the dark pink on the fin on the back, and that's okay. It makes it stand out more, whereas on this one, since it's all molded with the back piece, it's always going to be blue, unless you decide to customize it and paint it yourself to match up. So it's kind of take the good with the bad, my friends. And now we'll get him rearranged. Back to the robot mode, so that we can show you how to make him into a leg. Alright, now as a robot, to make him a leg, it's pretty simple. We gotta fold his arms down to the side, rotate his head in all the way this time so that that post is sticking up. Press his legs together to make sure they're in one solid piece. And then attach him onto a foot stand with the 3 claws pointing outward like so. And then now, he is a leg. Let's adjust him a little bit there, and there we go, that's a little bit better. He's going to lean a little bit on us, but that's about fine. And while we're at it, here's his instructions. As you can see, he still looks pretty ugly in that drawing. Put them around here to the back side so you can see that's the assembly and decal instructions. And how to turn him into the monster form. Apparently you can mount the foot stand onto the side, but I think that's going to more just get in the way than anything else. That's not really going to help there. And then how to make him into a leg. Alright, we'll get the other one out here as soon as we change the batteries in the camera. Alright, now with fresh batteries, we move on to fresh squid. We've got Tentakill. Again, like Skylord, the extra foot, the foot stand can be used as a shield. It doesn't look too bad, but since you can't move the tentacles out of the way like on the original, it kind of gets his arm stuck in that position. Otherwise, he can, for articulation, he can move the arm back all the way like that, or bring it down, straight down like that. Well, he's kind of standing at a slight angle there. That's better. And that's about it articulation-wise. Now to compare him with the original. And the original's turquoise versus the blue. On the new one, I kind of like the turquoise color on the original. It does work out a little bit better. Especially since there's more of it to kind of break up the color scheme a little bit. Because, I mean, you can notice back here on his backside is all that chartreuse color. Whereas this is just all, this is the turquoise. It kind of breaks it up a little bit. So for color variants, it'd be nice. Plus, you got the violet or whatever here for the feet and the tentacles, whereas, unfortunately, it's still that same color all around on the tentacles there. So it's kind of, the color scheme needs a little work. But otherwise, he's a pretty decent rendition of Tentakill there. As soon as I get finished changing that one over here, on this side of the camera, we'll be ready to review him. Just having a little trouble. There we go. Getting the guns on. There we are. Now we're ready. Now we're ready to rock and roll. Alright, we start off by, this time, remove the shield. And of course, remove the guns. And of course, we got to remove his leg pieces. Then we fold the tail section up, and just the legs on it. They can be moved or just pop them off like that, like you saw the one come off in my hand, like so. You can see his mug doesn't get any better on this side. Of course, you're going to rotate the legs around and reattach them. Here on this side. Of course, it helps when you drop everything on the when you drop things on the floor. This thing is keeping pointing straight up, so we can try to connect them. That's too high. Try to connect it down there at the lower one. Again, the design makes this a bit of a challenge to do. So now they want them attached down there at the bottom hole. Let's move his arms back so they're out of my way. There we go, that's how it works. So that way the one hole connects in, like so. And then of course, you would attach the small posts of the guns to the side of his head. Get these arms back up. And where do they say you can stick the foot stand at? Oh, he can store the foot stand somewhere on his backside. They just aren't very exacting. Bring the arms back a bit, and that connects like that. Kind of stupid. More for storage than for anything else, but there he is in squid form. Compare him to the original in squid form. And, well, it's a tough debate. I mean, I like the colors of the tentacles on this one versus this guy, but the sticker for the face at least adds a color scheme for the teeth, which is sorely, sorely lacking on the original there. So, in many ways, it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other on him. In reality, I mean, I do like the gray on this one a little bit better than this color, but still, I would have at least liked to have seen this color for the tentacles than getting that ugly color there. Now, to quickly flip him back into the other mode. Or flip him the finger, whichever is easiest. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. There we go. And trust me, folks, it could go either way here. Alright. Now to get him ready to be a leg, we simply lock his legs together. Of course, we got to rotate the head the other way so that the post is sticking up. And then, of course, slide him into the foot stand. And now he's ready to go on there. But before we do that, show off his instructions. Lousy picture. Lousy, 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 lousy. Especially don't like how they extend the tentacles a bit. Because that's always been a complaint for Tentakill, is that you can't do anything with the tentacles. So, you know, seeing artwork like that that's misleading really just doesn't sell it for me. Okay, backside we've got how to build him into the robot. And then, of course, turn him into the octopus. And lastly, how to build him into this mode. Now, let's gather up all the parts and build him up. Alright, start here with Skylore and Tentakill as the legs. Their two posts that were their heads will connect into these two holes on the bottom of Snaptrap. Like so. Nautilator has a post here to connect into this little circled hole on Snaptrap's shoulder, like so. And before he falls down, we shall put Sea-Wing into the exact same spot on the other side. He's a bit top-heavy, folks. You'll have to forgive him. Before we get too far and forget about it, we take the head and slide it over Snaptrap's head. It just slides over like so. And then lastly, we take Overbite and connect him in has the gun into one hand. Of course, we can also attach the sword into the other hand, but I'm going to store the sword more in the back, like so that he can use it later. Because this guy, believe it or not, has a bonus weapon. You can take all the little guy's guns and build them into another gun. For starters, you'd take Skalor's two guns, connect them together by their central post. And then they will each connect into a hole on Sea-Wing's guns. You do that with Sea-Wing's guns having the posts pointed downward, like so, just exactly like that. And then they connect into the two holes on Snaptrap's gun. Then you'll take Nautilator's gun, and you'll connect it here along the side of the barrel. And lastly, you're going to combine together Tentacle's gun, like so, and stick the post from it into the barrel of Snaptrap's gun. And there you have it, folks. You've got a super gun that can be mounted into the other arm. And there you have it. King Poseidon in all his glory. Now, off to the side, I've been building Piranacon in a similar way. Of course, the biggest difference on that is that Piranacon there, Nautilator cannot be attached like so, because he doesn't have a post on what would be the top side of the lobster. So we had to improvise a little bit there. But otherwise, it does tend to capture the spirit of the original toy. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it does have a little bit more on the articulation side. Let's get Piranacon here out of the way and we'll show it off. Piranacon, King Poseidon here, you can rock his head back and forth a little bit due to the way it's connected. You can rotate the arms all the way, to a degree of course, because they do tend to get in the way of all the other parts. Or if this stupid fin would stop falling. And of course, due to the way the legs are attached, he can bend at the knee a little bit like so, and he can spread the legs out to a degree, but you'll have to be careful of that, because shifting him too much does tend to make him a little bit on the top-heavy side. But there you have King Poseidon. Now we get down to my thoughts on him. What do I think of this toy? This one is definitely one for the ages, folks. As I readjust him a little bit there. This one is certainly one that most of us are going to want in our collections. Mainly due to the fact that he is the only complete combiner available like this, or at least at the time of this filming, he is the only one that is genuinely 100% complete. For those of you that saw my poll videos, you would have seen that I did have Silverbolt, Motormaster, and Onslaught available for review. They included some of the pieces to make their combined forms. However, there are no Kabaya made versions of their minions. What you would basically be buying is a generic pack that included assorted little guys that would be combinable with those guys to make their unified form. And in a lot of ways, that, while it's cheaper for them to be made like that, it does bring about negative feelings towards it. It is disappointing. That's the word I'm looking for. Disappointing for that. Because you're not making the genuine character. You're making something that's an offshoot that really doesn't look like the character. And that is sad. It's disappointing, more or less. This right here, you've got the whole kit and caboodle. You have the entire figure right here at your fingertips, and that's what most of us would want. And in spite of all of its flaws, since it does have some wonky joints on him, he does tend to get top-heavy at times, and some of the colors don't translate very well. This is definitely a top-tier toy, because he's the only one of his kind, and he does capture the spirit of the Generation 1 combiners pretty well. The new added feature of the combining of their guns to form a single large weapon, that's kind of nice. It's a nice added bonus, and it holds all the pieces together. So it has that going for it as well. You've got easy storage to go along with that. I mean, what all else could you ask for and expect to get? Maybe a little bit of chrome on those fins, but let's not push it, folks. This is definitely a top-tier toy, simply for the sheer imagination of what it took to make this thing work. He isn't perfect, but he captures the essence very well, so definitely top tier. And that concludes my review of the Kabaya version of King Poseidon, or Piranacon, whichever you prefer. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Don't forget as well, hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already joined our ranks. Please also consider sharing your thoughts for this toy in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701, saying that I know these first two Kabaya reviews have been a little long-winded. I promise you the rest of them will not be as long, so I'll catch you all later.